Get a good look. Might be one of the last times you see him. Joe Biden left the White House today, boarding Marine One for one final trip as president. And before that, he got a question from the press.
Mr. President, do you plan to talk to Trump before inauguration? Do you plan to talk to Trump before inauguration?
No, it's coming up really quick. I'll see him in the inauguration.
Well, we'll see about that because inauguration's looking a little different. More on that later. Biden's leaving office, quote, totally dejected. People say the White House feels like a morgue. All of Biden's friends are giving him a eulogy. Listen.
You know, I really miss Biden. I feel like we were safe. Like, I didn't have to worry. Was everything going to blow up? Well, I could live my life while he was there. Now, every day I wake up and I worry, what is this guy going to do next?
It's a bitter goodbye. And Joe's going out screaming.
This is one of the last events that I'll be doing as president. I affirm the Equal Rights Amendment to have cleared all the necessary hurdles to be added to the U.S. Constitution now. The Equal Rights Amendment is the law of the land now. It's the 28th Amendment to the Constitution now.
Every lawyer in D.C. is trying to figure out what he just said. Brett Baer's bow ties in a tangled mess. Did the president just announce he added things to the Constitution? How? It sounds like Biden thinks he just added an amendment. Here's the thing. There is no 28th Amendment. If Trump announced he'd made an amendment to the Constitution, all hell would break loose. But the media is not even taking Joe seriously. They're like, he says things. Two people close to Biden tell NBC that, quote, privately, Biden has vacillated from feeling melancholy to resigned to angry to wistful as he reflects on his legacy. Have you ever seen a man go through so many mood swings? Is he having menopause? And he's also full of regret.
The mistake we made was, I think I made, was not getting our allies to acknowledge that the Democrats did this. So, for example, build a new billion-dollar bridge over a river. We'll call it the Democratic Bridge, figuratively speaking. Talk about who put it together. Let people know that this was something the Democrats did, that it was done by the party. That's different than me writing a check and me signing a check and saying, I did it. I'm not a very good huckster.
This is the guy Democrats said should be on Mount Rushmore. Do you think Teddy Roosevelt in his exit interview whined about not getting enough credit? I should have put my name on bridges and stimmy checks. This isn't a great statesman. No one feels sorry for a guy with his own jet, nukes, and chef. Biden had the entire media and tech industry on his side, and he thinks he had a PR problem. The media is remembering the Biden era a little differently. They're remembering a president who lied to them.
Democrats, including you, were relentlessly harsh against special counsel Robert Hur for making an observation that proved pretty accurate about how Joe Biden might appear to a jury as a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
And a president who hid from them.
They started to get smarter from the perspective of keeping him from saying something off script. So they would put a microphone like 2 feet inside of a door for him in some room on campus. And a door would open and he would go right to the microphone. And then when he was done, he would step right out, no chance to shout anything. Or Shuffle. They would pack the room with people. Yeah. Just hundreds of people would suddenly show up, materialize between us and him. Or they found eventually the cord to plug somebody's iPhone in, and they would just blast music so that people could not get anything to him. And so a lot of it was stagecraft.
The Ragin' Cajun calls the Biden legacy, quote, one of the great tragedies of American politics. He should be having a glorious, well-deserved, highly acclaimed retirement, and he's not. It's hard to blame anybody but him. The Atlantic says Biden destroyed his legacy by stubbornly setting off on his own re-election campaign, by strapping his party to his shuffling frame. He doomed the nation to realizing the nightmare scenario that he'd promised to prevent. He created the ideal conditions for Trump's return and for his own spectacular failure. And not only is he leaving with zero cash for a presidential library, he's living with no friends. Biden's people say the relationship between him and Nancy is, quote, permanently damaged. His relationship with Kamala is being called frosty after Joe's been bragging about how he could have beaten Trump. But Kamala might have something up her sleeve.
I am fully aware that I am the public face of a lot of our work. And so I have the benefit of running into people all over our country who thank me. It is not my nature to go quietly into the night.
Publishers want to pay her millions to write a tell-all. So this isn't over at all. And Joe can't stop talking about Barack.
You've heard Barack get mad at me when I was a kid all the time. He said, I know, all politics is personal.
Yeah.
Well, it's about understanding what motivates the other guy, other woman, and what their interests are.
And it's all personal. Biden's upset that Barry stabbed him in the back, and Obama's upset that Joe didn't name an aircraft carrier after him. Yeah, after Biden named aircraft carriers after Bush and Clinton this week, Barack's people are complaining. One said Barack H. Obama did not get an effing personnel carrier named after him. The SS Hussein Obama doesn't really strike fear in the heart of our enemies, so maybe that's a good oversight. And Barack and Nancy aren't the only ones on Joe's bad side. Chuck Schumer now in the hot seat, too. We just found out Chuck was the lead actor in the coup, although that's according to Chuck. He just spilled his guts to the Times. According to the story, after the debate, Schumer's flip phone wouldn't stop ringing. Biden wasn't leaving. Instead, he released a letter telling Democrats to fall in line. On Capitol Hill, Democrats didn't even think Joe wrote it. They thought it was written by Hunter. One senator said they wouldn't support Biden unless he could produce 2 neurologists to issue a public report saying he was fit to serve, and then hold a news conference where anyone could ask questions. Obviously, that never happened. And inside of private meetings, they were all fighting with each other. John Fetterman was pleading with Schumer, saying, we've got to be for Joe Biden, and accusing Democrats of having no spine. Schumer scolded Fetterman, saying, you can always express what you think in our caucus, but don't ever tell our members they have no spine. It's not effective for you and not fair to them. Remember, Schumer leaked this to the Times, so it's just his side of the story. Barack was getting worried that Democrats were doing nothing, but he wasn't going to be the one to break the news to Joe. Barry said his relationship with Joe was fragile, and he told Chuck, you may be the better one. He was like, trust me, you don't want me to do this. And when Chuck showed up in Rehoboth Beach, he heard Biden shouting on a Zoom call with other Democrats, I'm not leaving. And he knew things were about to get awkward. So Chuck had to tell him how bad his poll numbers were. And he showed him a sheet where Biden had just a 5% chance of beating Trump. And Biden looked at it like he'd never seen numbers like this before. His own pollsters were hiding the numbers from him. He sat down near a screened-in porch overlooking a pond in Delaware and said, if you run and you lose to Trump and we lose the Senate and we don't get back the House, that 50 years of amazing, beautiful work goes out the window. But worse, you can go down in American history as one of the darkest figures. And left with one last warning, quote, if I were you, I wouldn't run. And I'm urging you not to run. Biden didn't shout, didn't argue. All he did was say, you really think Kamala can win? And then Biden said, I need a week. As Schumer walked out, Biden put his hands on his shoulder and says, quote, you've got bigger balls than anyone I've ever met. And Chuck went out to his car and broke down crying. Crying Chuck. A week later, Biden dropped out. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.